Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with episode 4 of Dr. Stone. So I want to clarify a couple things before we really get started. With what I was saying in the last reaction, afterthoughts, and all of that. First off, I know Senku's not making a gun. I want to clarify this because this was mentioned in the comments. I know Senku isn't actually making a full-fledged gun. He's making black powder. He literally said this in the episode. I understand that he's not actually making a gun. My entire power of gun thing is a joke. It's a joke I make in a lot of shows or movies or whatnot when you have characters who are either super powered or are where a gun is not usually seen and suddenly gun out of nowhere. That was the joke. It's like watching a superhero series and suddenly one of the heroes just pulls out a Glock and starts shooting at the villain. That would be the joke I'm referring to. It's not anything about actually the character here doesn't have to be using the gun. It's just that the idea of a gun, because of how this world is set up, is so kind of foreign that it's a funny idea to think about. And with the visual shown of Senku holding a gun and shooting it and everything, I know that he's just planning on making black powder based traps or weaponry or whatnot in order to stop my mind wants to say Fushiguro, but I fucking know that's not correct for a number of reasons. Subasa? Subasa? Is it Subasa? Something like that. No, Subasa's Symphogear. What the fuck is his name? Hold on. I have the comment up so I can just look at that. Tsukasa. I was close, actually. So yeah, I know he's not actually making a gun to take out Tsukasa, but yeah, I was just kind of making a joke there. Another thing in regards to that, I'm not when I'm talking about Yuzuriha's usefulness and everything, I'm not saying, and I thought I was trying to make that pretty clear, but I just to make it even more clear here, I'm not saying that she's not going to be useful. I understand. She just woke up. She's getting acclimated to things. We don't even know everything of what she can do. My entire thing about her, spotting the landmark and everything being her big use so far, it's again, I'm not saying that she's not going to be useful. I'm just saying I don't know what her use is going to be yet. I don't, Senku is smart and scientific. We understand then what his use is going to be. Taiju is beefy but not a fighter. We understand what his use is going to be. Tsukasa is a fighter. Again, so on and so forth. All of their usefulnesses in this kind of situation is worn on their sleeves. In other words, it's very apparent. It's very basic. It's right in your face. But this is a character, Yuzuriha, that is not that obvious. That's all I'm saying. She's not as in your face about what her strengths are. I'm not saying she's not going to be useful. I honestly believe she probably will be. More than likely. I just don't know how. I don't know what it's going to be in. And again, I don't want spoilers on that, so don't tell me, but that's all I'm saying. I'm not by any means trying to say that Yuzuriha is not useful. But yeah. So I'm sorry if I made it seem that way, if I made it seem like that's what I was saying, but that's not it at all. But yeah, You also mentioned in the comment here, one of the biggest issues with Sukasa's ideology is that if the kids who were revived and living in Sukasa's ideal society were truly pure-hearted, they'd never side with him in the first place. Anyone who is truly pure-hearted, which is what he wants and what he thinks kids just automatically are compared to the corrupt adults, they would never agree to his utopian ideals because his ideals are built on non-pure-hearted, corrupt beliefs. And yeah, that's entirely valid. That's an entirely valid way to look at it. That is probably entirely true. Like you said, that much murder and death wouldn't be agreed to by anyone who was truly pure-hearted. Sure, I agree. I genuinely agree with that. And Senku and Taiju have shown that, yes. But I would not say that Senku and Taiju are entirely pure-hearted themselves necessarily. Because I don't think anyone is entirely pure-hearted. But it's just that Tsukasa is, like I believe I said last time, is looking at this in a very black or white way, when a lot of this does tend to be gray. He sees this as just, you're either good or bad, and if you're an adult, you're bad. If you're a kid, you're good. It's so black and white. It's so just strict in how it's portrayed. And it's like, the weirdest part is Tsukasa is smart. We've seen that. So the fact that he kind of believes this is wild to me, because it's like, that's such a non-intelligent idea. Seeing things in that much of a black and white state is so actively unintelligent. And again, I understand that he went through a terrible situation, being literally beat by this strange old man who just who thought he was stealing his shells just because he owned the fishing rights to the beach. He was literally beat within an inch of his life by this guy just because because Tsukasa wanted to make a necklace or whatever for his sister who was, sick. It's like, yeah, that's traumatizing. I understand. But that doesn't make all adults just automatically the devil. And it doesn't make all kids automatically good. And again, Tsukasa himself, let's be honest, disproves his entire theory. Because he's a kid, he's a teenager, and yet he's openly murdering people. And he's trying to excuse it, but that's not pure-hearted. He's trying to excuse it as making the perfect world, but he himself is not acting pure-hearted. And if we're to believe that he knows that, what would be the plan? For him to kill himself after he brought forth this pure-hearted world of only children? There's so many flaws in his logic. It just doesn't work. But yeah, he's still a really interesting and well-crafted character. I still do really like him as an antagonist because, as was made clear before, he's not a bad person. He's just doing bad things because he's twisted this idea of what is needed to help save this world. He genuinely wants to save and protect this world. It's not just good intentions, it's the best intentions. But as the phrase goes, hell is paved with the best intentions. The road to hell is absolutely paved with the best intentions. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if your actions are still evil, they're still evil. That doesn't make you evil, but your actions are, and that means you need to put a stop to that. And I still stand by that. I believe Tsukasa could be redeemable. I think he is a 100% redeemable villain. I don't know if he will be redeemed, but he is 100% redeemable. He could very easily be redeemed and be a valid member of this new society, of this Stone World society. But he needs to change. He does need redemption because he is the bad guy here, even if he's not a bad guy. See, I love villains like this who have so much depth to them. Who's not just... I like a good, just pure evil villain every now and again. Pure evil baddies are great. Not all villains need to be super in-depth, have a lot of tragic backstory to them and whatnot. But there's nothing wrong with villains who are like that, too. You can have both. And hell, this series might even have both. Maybe another villain in the future will be pure evil. Hell, maybe there will be an adult villain in the future who will kind of prove Tsukasa's ideology to a degree. Or at the very least, kind of give him a reason to believe that. It's possible. But I also like these villains like Tsukasa who aren't bad people, but have this twisted ideology that makes them commit these horrific acts just because they want to save people. It's genuinely a fascinating style to give a character. So I'm very excited to see what they do with him. Right now, our main group has reached Hokkaido, I believe? Or Hakone? One of the two. To get gunpowder. To make, or to get sulfur to make gunpowder and black powder and all. But Tsukasa, being as smart as he is, it was able to figure that out right fucking quick. And is on their tail because he knows that if they make this, he's fucked. He knows that they're trying to get what they need to actively fight him. And he knows if they get this black powder made, like, he's in big trouble. Because it's like, as strong as he is, as fast as he is, that's dangerous to him. Like, again, not obviously a gun specifically, but black powder is still a massive danger to him. Because it's a massive danger to anyone. He's ridiculously strong, but he's still human. Tsukasa's basically peak human strength, or at least very close to peak, but he's still human. So he is still weak to explosions and whatnot that black powder could cause. So yeah, it makes sense that he wants to stop them. It's going to be interesting to see how this goes, to see exactly, because I feel like he's going to catch up to them in this. And where's this going to lead in the end? Like, are they going to, like, split up and just be enemies? Are they going to split up and just try to do their own thing while ignoring each other? What's going to happen here? Because it's still early in the season. Like, we're only on episode 4, and we haven't even started it yet, so. I guess the best way to find out, though, is to watch. So we're just going to get this started now, because I've talked long enough in these pre-thoughts. And hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, it's kind of weird to think about, like, thinking of, like, more modern shows. I think, uh, just based on at least these first 4 episodes and imagining where he's going to go as a character, I think Tsukasa might be one of my favorite modern, anime villains. Because he's not really a villain. And it's like I talked about in the pre-thoughts, his depth and genuine goodness make him so very interesting and unique as a villain. You see a lot of enemies who, even if they believe they're doing the right thing, they're unquestionably bad people. Like, I guess you could say the White Clads in Fire Force as an example. Like, they're unquestionably bad people. It's not even up for debate. But they do believe what they're doing is right because they're led to believe that by the evangelist. The evangelist we know practically nothing about, so to be fair, can't say on her yet, but at least for the White Clads, they are unquestionably evil. But you have Taiju here, and it's like, or not Taiju, Tsukasa, and he's on complete other side of this. He's unquestionably good. He is a good person who wants to genuinely help, whose first instinct after coming out of his stone prison and after beating the lion was, I'm going to help you. You guys don't need to worry about food again. I'll help you get your food. I'll help you, I'll help protect you if need be. It's like, his first instinct was to help them. Because he's genuinely nice. He's genuinely a good guy who wants to, help people. And that all goes to his backstory with his sister and everything. He wants to help people. And he just has a very twisted way of looking at the world because of things that happen to him, circumstances beyond his control. And that's not entirely his fault. That's the fault of, mostly, it seems, that one guy, that one asshole. But it nonetheless shaped his morality and shaped his ideology that we're seeing now. In a way, you could almost say that Tsukasa is traumatized. He was traumatized by what happened to him then, and because of it, looks at things with a very dark mindset. And again, I make it clear, what he's doing is unquestionably bad, but he himself is not. And that's very much a case of something that can happen. Good people have committed bad acts many times for many reasons. There's a lot of circumstances that can lead to that. And in this circumstance, it's an unfortunately twisted sense of morality for the purpose of saving humanity. It's wild, because like, I've seen characters like this before in terms of, like, villains who, are trying to do the right thing and truly believe that they're in the right. I've seen that before. But are still committing evil, heinous acts. But it's done in such an elegant way here that it feels extremely fresh. Tsukasa is actually super likable. And that's something that you don't actually get from a lot of those types of characters. Usually, even if you can understand why the character is doing what they're doing, even if you understand why they're the way they are and why they think the way they think, and see that they are trying to genuinely help, they're not usually likable. They're still usually, like, just kind of neutral characters. Like they're not like hateable, but they're not really super likable either. Um, because it's hard to make a character who still is committing evil actions likable. It would be extremely hard to do that because they're, in this case, murdering people who could very well be completely innocent and not deserve what he's doing to them. And most of his victims probably are. So, the ability to make him likable and sympathetic while also making him the antagonist here, but allowing you to understand where he's coming from, even if you don't agree with it, is so elegantly handled. It is so wild how well it's written here that it's shocking. Like, I don't know if I've seen a villain handled this way before. To this level. He's genuinely impressing the shit out of me. Like, of all things in this show, Tsukasa is the most impressive to me right now. I'm not even joking you. Like, I love the science stuff. I love the writing in general. I love the idea of this kind of being similar to an isekai, but not being an isekai at all. Because think about that for a second. These kids are in a world that is basically not their own, but is also entirely their own. They're in a world 3,700 years in the future, but also a world that is basically reverted to the Stone Age. And yet, it basically acts like an isekai, because they're in a world that they don't, well, that they know, but is still foreign to them. But it's also just completely their world. They didn't actually, like, teleport or anything to anywhere. It's such a weird idea that it kind of feels like an isekai while just completely not being one. But yeah, this is just a wild show that in the midst of all of this, my favorite thing is the antagonist and how he's handled. The way he's written is just so fantastic, and honestly, I have no idea where they're going to take him, but I genuinely have to say, after just these first 4 episodes, he's my favorite character so far. He's probably like one of my favorite modern anime villains, and he's my favorite character of this entire series so far. And it's usually very much not that kind of character that becomes my favorite. Usually, I tend to gravitate towards more characters like Yuzuriha or even Taiju. Senku to a lesser degree, but I've definitely gravitated towards more scientifically minded characters like him before. I mean, I like the Elric brothers in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, so... and they are very scientifically minded. Though they tend to act a lot more on emotion than Senku pretends to. Or you know what I mean. Senku pretends like he doesn't act on emotion, but he very much does. Ed and Al don't really hide that. They acknowledge they are emotional. Sometimes a little too emotional. But it makes them great characters, so. But yeah, the fact that he's my favorite kind of just astounds me as well. And that could obviously change because we got a new character in the midst now. This blonde girl from the opening is now in the series. She also has awakened. We don't know if it's through the same methods. It probably is, but we don't technically know that. But we do know that she responded to the smoke that came from the gunpowder explosion, and then her and Senku sent each other a three signal, signal. And so she's definitely going to come into play probably next episode. And I'm definitely interested to see how she is as a character, especially compared to Yuzuriha, who, by the way, is an absolute G in this episode. Like, Yuzuriha, like, we could tell already, obviously, from last episode, how nice and kind and gentle she was. But to see her just so quickly willing to give her life so that Senku could protect this recipe, so that he himself could survive, it's like she's, like, again, we knew she was a good person, but damn, girl, like, you're winning some massive points here. The fact that she's just taking this all in stride and, like, willing to die to protect Senku is, it shows her character in a really great way. It shows who she is and what she values, and on top of that, just the kindness of her heart. And it kind of caught both of the others off guard. It caught both Senku and Tsukasa off guard by how willing she was to sacrifice herself. But of course, Senku wouldn't abide by that. Like, Senku would never have agreed to that. He of course was going to give up the recipe. He's not going to let her die, and not just because of Taiju. Yeah, of course he doesn't want to disappoint Taiju either, but he's not going to let someone die like that. He's not that kind of person. He constantly goes on about acting on logic and scientific mindfulness and everything. Like, that's his big thing. He constantly talks about what's the most logical and everything. But let's be fucking honest here. Senku is an emotional kid. This kid acts on his emotions probably just as much as he acts on logic. He won't admit it, because he's a little stubborn like that, but he very much does. He's a very emotional person who he doesn't want to admit how emotional he is, because everything he's always done and everything that he's dedicated his life to has been logic-based, has been science-based. As we saw in this episode with the flashback, it's literally been pretty much his entire life since he was a young child. He was given all this equipment, all of this stuff by his father, who might have gotten it through shady means. And he's dedicated everything he's had to it. He put his everything into science. And it's something that genuinely excites him, something that genuinely makes him happy. So yeah, of course he's going to be obsessed with it. Of course he's going to say that he thinks logically, but he's human. Just like anyone else here, he's human, and he very much acts on emotion. There's this weird kind of idea that a lot of people like to spread around, that some people don't act on emotion, when that's just not possible. If you're human, you act on emotion. Like, to different degrees, maybe, but you act on emotion because that's how the human brain works. Emotion is so powerful that a person really can't help but act on it, even if unintentionally. Whether it be anger, joy, depression, confusion, disgust, whatever emotion it may be. We act on emotion. We survive on emotion, not just logic. Emotion helps us, grow and just thrive in a world full of people. We basically can't really survive properly without it. So the idea that Senku doesn't act on emotion at all, or that he's all logic based, is kind of impossible, but also just ridiculous to think about, especially when we see so much of his emotion and him acting on it constantly. Um, he just won't personally admit it. He'll try to figure out some way to pretend it was logical to act the way he has. But let's be honest, it's emotion. And I like that. I genuinely do. I like that he kind of plays hush hush about that, because it's funny. It's kind of cute. He's an adorable little nerd. Um, and yeah, it's obvious he doesn't die at the end of this episode. He's literally the main character, so it's obvious he doesn't die. Now, the way how is still a question. Like I said, it's possible that Tsukasa may have had mercy on him, because we know Tsukasa's not a bad guy, and killing Senku here would be, like, even beyond his twisted morality of trying to save this stone world and make it better than the world they came from. Like, that's even beyond his twisted morality. So, either he provided mercy here, or he does genuinely intend to kill him here, and will probably have nightmares about it. At least that was probably his plan. But Senku will be saved, most likely not by Taiju, but more likely by the blonde girl. We'll see. We will see. But I'm very much enjoying this. Out of all the shows I'm currently reacting to, this has honestly become one of my favorites. I think I might have mentioned that last time as well. Like, you look at everything that I'm currently reacting to, and it's like I've been disappointed by where Molly McGee's been lately. I've been loving Castlevania Nocturne, but to a very different degree and for different reasons, mind you. Pluto I really love, but is also much more serious. The Imperfects I'm really enjoying, but also kind of like there's a side to me that's kind of on it still. I talked about that in the last Imperfects reaction, so. Fire Force I'm really enjoying, but sometimes there's some things that happen that I'm not a huge fan of. Symphogear G I just came back to, so give that some time. And the only thing I think comparable to this that I'm reacting to right now, like really comparable, is Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. Like, those are the two that I think I'm the most into right now out of my current schedule. With stuff like Pluto and Castlevania Nocturne very close behind. But yeah, it's just, I think those are my two personal favorites that I'm reacting to currently. I think that Pluto is probably the best made, I would say, at the moment that I'm reacting to, but in terms of just personal preference, Dr. Stone and Scott Pilgrim Takes Off are my favorites at the moment. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this goes with Tsukasa. And I'm hoping for some more great stuff to come in the future. I know there's, like, I think 3 seasons of this so far. So there's definitely plenty of content for me to react to as we go along. But for the time being, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode, episode 4 of Dr. Stone? What do you think of everything that happened in it? Yuzuriha's bravery and just, selflessness, of the just wildly amazing character work on Tsukasa, the backstories, our new character who's coming in. Obviously, again, as always, no spoilers. I don't want to know anything about this new character before it's revealed in the series, so do not tell me anything about her. Just let me know your thoughts on what we saw up to this point. For now, though, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.